Hey everybody, so today's lecture is going to be titled Learning AI for Babies. And this lecture isn't going to be specifically for babies, of course, but I want to set and frame this lecture along that entire mindset. And then what we're seeing here and what we're looking at is the chart of competence. And I've been through a lot of executive training courses, and this is one of the concepts that comes up within them over and over again. And this is the concept that I want to frame this entire lecture around. So first, I want to talk about this concept here. And then so what we're talking about is and what we're looking at is the four stages of competence. And then so within the four stages of competence, everyone starts off as unconsciously incompetent, meaning that you don't know what you don't know and you don't know anything basically, right? And then you go into unconscious competence, where you start, or you go into conscious incompetence, where you realize that you don't know something, you don't know anything, right? But you start realizing that there's things that you don't know, but there's limits to what you don't know. And then you get into conscious competence, where you can think about something oh, I know how to do that. I remember these steps on how to do that and how to get through that. And then there's unconscious competence, where you just you don't think about it anymore, right? You just go through it. And then so pretty much everyone on the planet has unconscious competence when it comes to computers, like across the board, right? Like it doesn't matter what your profession is. My children are very young. My oldest is 10, and she knows she is unconsciously competent in computers, like maybe more so than me in certain areas, right? And then so within that, there's a that is the inherent problem to me when it comes to learning AI, because the biggest thing to learning AI is throwing all of this out the window. That's step number one. So, and that's where I think that's why it's so hard to learn, right? So, step number one: take everything that you know about computers, literally everything that you know about them, and then we're throwing that out the window. We're coming into the mindset, if you want to learn AI, truly learn AI, you need to come at it from the mindset of unconscious incompetence. We need to start as a baby. And then within that, we'll start and then we'll learn a new mapping of exactly how AI operates as opposed to how computers operate. Within computers, you've got GPU, CPU, calculators, it's deterministic software, software itself, applications. We're all very used to these things, right? You put in an input into a computer and then you get an expected output. It's very deterministic on that point, and then we're very used to what exactly we can utilize computers for and the output that they're going to produce. And then again, we're at the point of unconscious competence when it comes to that. We just expect it. And then so we need to reframe all of that, because the number one thing to realize and to understand is that yes, AI has been around for a long time, right? It's been the simplest way to frame it to me is that AI has been a competing technology with regards towards current computer science. So the way that I frame this overall is that current computer science, so when we talk about transistors, Moore's law, everything such as this, we're talking about a period that starts about 125 years ago. I like to say the 1890s, right? 1880s, 1890s. And then so within that period, it trudges along, and then in 70 years after its inception, so like in the 1950s, right, like a long time after this inception is when this decision point first comes up. Do we continue on this track, on this, we have a choice at that point between analog and digital, right? Do we go on the digital track from the analog track? Do we stay on the analog track, or do we go with this new thing called AI that is big during the 1950s, right? And then so for a while, it's like there's this competing technology. Look at it, like kind of current, like a modern day races, right? Where you have like a VHS and beta, HD DVD and Blu-ray, etc. And it's the race between digital and AI, and then digital wins out, right? And then so we go into the digital age, which everyone is familiar with, and then AI goes into AI winter, but now, so the big thing that we're coming into with an AI is the end of Moore's law, right? So we're coming into the end of traditional computing, which is is, in my opinion, what has catapulted AI to the forefront of all of this and back into the discussion. So, number one point to realize is like when people talk about it and they say, hey, AI has been around for a long time, it's been around for 70 years now. Answer is yes, but the equation around AI is much different than it was 70 years ago for two main reasons. Number one that I just discussed, which is the end of Moore's law, which is huge, right? Because in the 1950s, that's the era of Moore, who created Moore's law, and Moore's law is in full swing, in full effect at that point. There's no reason to think of an end to Moore's law, and there's not an end to Moore's law during Moore's lifetime. So there's no reason to think about that during that equation at that time. But now we're here, and we're at the end. And the secondary thing is that we've been able to scale up the compute behind AI to the point where we now have emergent properties that come out of it, which is the modern Gen AI revolution and everything that you see around kind of like this modern commercialized AI. It is built heavily around this concept of emergent properties. And then so let's dive kind of deeper and let's take our next step into that, right? So our first step is we're shedding our unconscious competence. We don't know anything. We are recognizing that this field of AI is completely different from the fields of computers. It was a competing field against digital and against other competing computer technologies, and it did not succeed in that era. So we don't know anything about it up front, and we're going to recognize that we're unconsciously incompetent. So within that, how exactly should we think of and frame our understanding of AI going into it as opposed to this? And then so if we're coming into this with an unconscious competence mindset, we're going to come into it and frame AI with regards towards computers. How does it frame towards a computer? But again, we're not going to do that, right? We're going to take it from the opposite angle of unconscious incompetence. So what would be the most common area that we could look at towards AI and compare it to, and that would be like an alien life, flat out. It's that's what we're looking at is a form of intelligence and a area of intelligence that we don't necessarily know 100% overall how it works. Just flat out admitting that to you overall. Why it works, I can tell you exactly how it works. Like I can give you the full breakdown of exactly how everything is going on, why the process works. I can't fully explain that to you, and that's any researcher on the planet. If anyone says that they can fully explain to you all of this, they don't understand it themselves enough. Flat out, that's the bottom line there. But so within this, we're starting off with this framing it in this understanding that we don't know anything at all upfront about these systems, right? So we're coming up into it with this baby understanding of okay, so it's a new life form, an alien life form, essentially an alien intelligence, right? What does that mean? So this alien intelligence, it's designed initially to, its initial design was based off of the human brain and the human architecture. But throughout the 70 years of its existence and its growth, it has moved away from that somewhat, right? So its basis is the human brain. So when you think of LLM models, large language models, and like really big AI, it's around neural networks, right? So deep learning, all around deep neural networks, which are essentially modeled after the brain. And then so with that modeling off of the brain, they're essentially modeled off of neurons in the brain, and they're simplified neurons and a simplified process of how a neuron works. And a neuron recognizes and remembers patterns of information. It doesn't remember the full-on information. You don't remember, even if you have a photographic memory, right? You're not remembering every single event of every single part of your life. You're remembering the patterns of events. Your brain is very equipped because of the neurons in your brain to store those patterns of information, right? And then so that's exactly what AI is doing and exactly what AI is mimicking. It's mimicking those patterns of information. It doesn't operate in the same exact way that neurons operate. First of all, it's a much more simplified process. And secondarily, we've gone through and there's been advancements to this process. One example would be like the feed forward mechanism, right, as well as back propagation. This whole entire process that takes place as to how exactly the AI model is fed data, like this backward and forward process, that doesn't take place in the brain. Like flat out, our brains don't do it. That we don't learn the same way. How do our brains learn it? I don't know. I can't tell you. How does this alien life form learn it? Exactly how I just learned framed it to you. Forward propagation and back propagation, right? Two revolutions that have come about during that 70 years of AI advancement. Those would be two big ones. Like the back propagation was the biggest revolution of the 1980s, and Jeffrey Hinton, like one of the godfathers of AI, that's what he's known for, is back propagation, right? He invented that process. And that process works with an AI. Why that process works with an AI, I don't know. I can't tell you because my brain doesn't do that. Your brain doesn't work that way. But it works that way in AI systems, in this alien intelligence system. And then so within this alien intelligence system that is modeled after the human brain, but then also deviates from the human brain, we give it information. And then the way that we give it information is we feed it data, right? Same way that we would feed a human data. But what we learn within this and what we find within this is that it's brittle and we can't control what it learns and what it doesn't learn. We don't know, like we're not in charge of any of that process. And then what comes out of that learning is it can be completely out of left field. So giving you an example, you don't Anthropic put out a very good video on this earlier, right? Where they say very specifically, and the way that they frame it, I think is perfect framing. We don't build AI models, we grow AI models. And that's exactly it, right? You are growing an AI model. And what exactly it's going to grow into, you can't control. You can control what the general direction that it's going to grow into. You can control its learning path and its learning patterns and its direction, but what the actual outcome is going to be, you don't have direct control over. That's kind of the alchemy that comes into this as it is right now, right? And that's, I think, another part of this that throws people off within this is that yes, it is a part alchemy within that. It is trial and error, and then back and forth and learning within it. And then so to a lot of people, they like to them that throws off like, well, I don't want to, like, why exactly should we be dealing with these things? And like those are valid questions, right? And I think like those valid questions are why AI had the AI winter and why we went through that. But the fact of the matter that going back to it, that people aren't weighing in with that and they don't understand with that, coming back to this baby knowledge, right, is the fact that Moore's law has come to an end. We like computing. We're not going to advance computers more. Plain and simple. We're not going to go like generations and generations more. So we need something new. We need this to work, or we need something else to work. And so that's kind of where we're at. And uh, I'll end the lecture here. Do I think that this is the bottom line, like the best path forward or the only path forward with regards towards AI? No, I don't. But I think that this is the path forward that we have right now. And then so coming at this from the baby perspective, I'll leave this lecture here, and then we'll go on and go in future lectures kind of more into the maturity levels of AI as we continue. But so this is learning AI for babies. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.